Hello everyone, and thanks for tuning into the GavsWeatherVids Winter 2023-24 Winter Forecast Mid-Season Review. So, we released our Winter Forecast for 2023-24 on Sunday the 3rd of December. And very interesting forecast it was as well. We've reached a halfway point of meteorological winter, which, you know, in this instance is 1st December till the final day of February. No, we're at the halfway point of winter, just over halfway point of winter. So it's time to see how the forecast is doing, whether we've got to make any changes or adjustments, or whether the forecast is on track. I shall get on with that for you in a second. Just to say that's the first video sales our 6 AM UK weather forecast, and we've also released a 10 to 14 day as well as European outlook, so check out all the day business content. Thank you to Richard for our lovely winter forecast gift. Thank you so much, Rich. It was incredible. It was an incredible gift. Thank you so much, my friend. I love it. Right, okay, so just to very quickly say about the forecast. The forecast predicted right, better do that before we do the review. No, the forecast predicted a slightly colder than average winter. We said we'd have a mild December. That was quite a brave forecast, given that December started on a very cold note when we was doing the forecast, putting it together. It was very cold, but it always looked like we'd have a milder and wetter December. We said that there would be a change later on in winter, probably around the middle of January, something quite a lot colder, and then we would have like a cold, hearty winter with a cold period from sort of mid-January, possibly stretching out to mid-February, before maybe getting a little bit milder again right at the very end of the winter. We also predicted that the first half of winter would be by far the wettest period through December up to New Year. There would be a lot of rain, and then things would dry out, and the second half of the winter would be a lot drier, but also quite a bit colder. We expected there would be interesting stratospheric developments due to the combination of the easterly QBO with El Nino, and we thought an SSW was likely, a sudden stratospheric warming event was likely with this winter. And it will be after that we get like the coldest of weather. Right, okay, so that basically sums up what we was predicting at the beginning of December. Let's see what's happened so far then. So we'll start with December. Well, obviously December did indeed come out a milder than average month, was exceptionally mild down in the south, near a normal further north, but all places above average really with the temperature. And so our precipitation is going to say, yes, it was a wetter than average month as well. In fact, I believe some places had their wettest December since 1978. So far, so good. So far, so good. We did indeed have that milder and wetter December, despite starting on a very cold note. This is how the winter looks overall from the 500 millibar height anomaly perspective. Quite an interesting anomaly. So we have low pressure dominating across much of northern Europe. We have a ridge in the Atlantic going up towards Greenland. So very cold winter, of course, bit for Nordic and Scandinavian regions with winds in from the northeast. For us, we have had more of a westerly component, especially in December. Things changing a little bit when we get into January. This is how December's 500 millibar height anomaly looks. Again, we've seen that, yes, we did have a trough of low pressure across much of northern Europe. That brings very cold air into Scandinavia and Nordic regions. For us, we just about keep the wind in from the Atlantic though, so that's the reason that was relatively mild. But look what happens when we get into January. So that's pretty epic. 500 millibar height anomaly from the 1st to the 15th of January, with a large blocking area of high pressure in the North Atlantic around Iceland and Greenland, and opening the doors to those cold northerly and northeasterly winds. So very cold winter, of course, again across northwestern Russia into Scandinavian and Nordic regions, but this time the cold sort of opening out into West Europe. Notice also very cold across eastern parts of America. That's something we picked up on in our winter forecast. Although the forecast is right for the UK and Europe, we did pick up on the possibility of very, very cold conditions into large portions of America through January and indeed through February as well. Always had that sort of look about it. So definitely we have strengthened the blocking signal as we've gone into January. We have had cold weather. However, we know that is going to relent a little bit over the next week or so. And as far as the SSW is concerned, we did get a major warming of the stratosphere. It wasn't quite enough to reverse the winds at the time, but we did get a very significant warming of the stratosphere at 10 HPA. We went from minus 80 to about minus, I don't know, about minus 17, minus 15, you know, which is like a 65-degree temperature rise within 2 or 3 days there. So, you know, it wasn't enough to reverse the solar wind at the time, so it wasn't ever classified as a major SSW. Actually, this is much more modest warming here is the one that's reversed solar winds, but only temporarily. But I think overall, not a bad forecast for the strat, you know, to be suggesting we would get interesting stratospheric developments through this winter at the beginning of December, and indeed that has transpired. So although that wasn't enough to be classified as a major SSW at the time, you know, I think that has helped to soften up the polar vortex and allow this colder weather that we're probably experiencing now. So, how's the forecast doing, man? I think we're doing pretty well. I don't know what you think. Let me know in the comments, but I think we're doing all right with our forecast. I don't really see any need to make really significant adjustments, other than maybe inching the temperature forecast up a little bit. So we did go for like a slightly colder than average winter by 0.5 degree to 1 degree below the 91 to 2020 average. I think we're going to move that possibly to slightly above average. If this cold period that we're having right now was being predicted to stretch on through the rest of January, then I'd be happy to stick with the temperature forecast. But as December was so mild, and we will probably come away at least slightly above average with January's temperature, then or maybe average for January's temperature, then I think we've still got to suggest probably going to be a little bit milder than average this winter. So instead of around 0.5 degree to 1 degree below average, I would go for like 0.5 degree to 1 degree above average, probably. And again, that is the 91 to 2020 average. Precipitation wise, it looks like it's all working out quite nicely. So we did have a very wet start to winter. I think that's past us now, though we are going to be having more unsettled weather in the coming days, you know, from weekend and next week onwards. But I think that's only going to be a short interval back to unsettled conditions. I think overall higher pressure is much more in the ascendancy now, and will be for the remainder of the winter as well. Of course, there will be wet weather at times, but I reckon that the precipitation side of the forecast is doing quite well. No need to make any adjustments with that. Strat wise, it all looks like it's on. Of course, we might get another SSW in February. Have to wait and see about that. So yeah, I think we're doing all right. I think it's a pretty decent forecast. So please let me know in the comments what you think. I think the forecast has gone quite well up to this point. It's been a little bit warmer than we expected. Although again, we didn't expect the temperature would be above average for December. It's going to be this January, but isn't going to be as cold perhaps as we predicted. So that's the reason for inching the temperature forecast up slightly. But overall, a pretty decent forecast, pretty decent effort. I'm quite pleased with it. And of course, when we get to the end of the winter, when we get into the beginning of March, then we will evaluate the forecast in totality, both the original forecast and, you know, this mid-season review, and we'll see how it all stacked up. So if you've enjoyed the video, please do like, share, subscribe. Thanks so much for doing that. We're well on into our season of spring updates now. The long-range bandwagon never stops at GavsWeatherVids. So, yes, we're well into the spring updates, so make sure you're following those. And as I say, when we get into the beginning of March, we will be evaluating the winter 2023-24 forecast. But for this mid-season review for the winter 2023-24, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.